I'm Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book, and in this video we're going to be talking about Batman 39 by Scott Snyder, with art by Greg Capullo, and it's part 5 of the Endgame storyline. So we left off in part 4 where we learned quite a bit about Dionysium and the condition that the Joker has, and we learned about him kind of with this long extended history. And we basically left off with Batman getting to a pretty desperate situation where he ended up going back to the Court of Owls to possibly get him to help with this Joker situation. So that leads us into part 5, which is the penultimate chapter here. So Jason, let's just go to the overall reactions that you had here for this next installment in the story.
Well, I thought it was great. It kind of had everything that this entire Batman run by these two guys has, had in it in one issue. You had the Court of the Owls, you had a bunch of the Batman's Rogues gallery in there. You had a lot of the supporting cast, and they really kind of amped things up a notch with some of the violence and some of the things that happened to some major characters. So I thought it was a really excellent installment.
Yeah, speaking of the major violence, I did not see that coming. So like when I got to that panel that you're referring to, that was pretty intense for sure.
Yeah.
This one I think also has some I think what were intended to be some iconic moments. So, spoiler alert, obviously here, but the Joker being right there in the Batcave, and then the Joker taking some of Batman's stuff and parading it through town, like as he's kind of preparing for this victory where the Joker has kind of Jokerized Gotham.
Yeah.
I gotta think that image is so striking that I think Scott Snyder definitely must have been leading up to that kind of all the way along. And I thought Greg Capullo's art, like we've talked about before, I think just fits really well with the style. I mean, to me, it feels like they're just really continuing to gel as a team.
Definitely, yeah. It really seemed to hit a lot of iconic beats, and it's kind of like the best mixture of the movies and the comics and the animated series, and it kind of has nods to a lot of different things, I find.
Yeah. Now in 38 we were talking about the Court of Owls, and we were saying how the Court of Owls was such a strong start to this run by Scott Snyder. And so I was excited that Court of Owls, because of their historical connection to Gotham, I was excited that they were brought back in. But I felt like I was a little bit led astray because the Court of Owls thing didn't really play out. I mean, it was just the first few pages and then Batman moved on. So I'm hoping that in part 6 coming out in March that the Court of Owls will maybe surprise Batman and come out to help in some way, like right when they're needed or something. But I felt like that was kind of like I was getting jerked around a little bit by them, like leaving the cliffhanger and saying, oh, the Court of Owls are going to come into play, and then they didn't really in this issue. So I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, maybe he's got something planned for them in his grand scheme of things before he's done writing the book in total, because there's such a really interesting addition to the New 52. It's been something like a real nice surprise.
Yeah. But I think you're right, so about how it really brings a lot of elements together, because it does have the Rogues Gallery, or part of the Rogues Gallery. It's got the sidekicks, and then obviously it's got the Joker as kind of the main focus for the Nemesis. So it's really kind of like shaping up to be a pretty legendary Batman story. The thing that is holding me back from loving it even more is just this history of the Joker, like this kind of immortal aspect to the Joker.
Yeah.
I still am not sure if I want to accept this as the canonical main vision of the Joker. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Are you pretty comfortable with this kind of history style of the Joker?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's something that can be kind of written out, or it's something where there's a loophole in the plot where he doesn't have this after he extracts it from him or something. I was kind of thinking about it after I reread it today, and I thought what would have been even more interesting to me is if they made it that the Joker had other people that were in his bloodline that have all been kind of mass murderers and stuff, and that's how they kind of explained him being in these photos. That would have been much more interesting to me. Making it this other way, it kind of puts him on a different level and makes him more of a supervillain versus being Batman's nemesis. And I don't like it going to that level for Batman.
Yeah, so, okay, I think it sounds like we're kind of on the same page, even though, I mean, overall, this story arc is pretty strong. I'm still really coming to terms, and I guess that makes sense. It's going to take a while to come to terms with it if this is what they're doing with the Joker. I mean, this is a pretty big change, so it'll take me a while to get used to it. But I'm definitely, I mean, he still has these scenes where he still seems like the Joker, from the comics and from the animated series, that kind of stuff, where he's got something planned for part 6, coming up next, so we're obviously left at the end, it looks like Batman has rallied some people to his side where they might
Hmm.
start to be able to for Batman to get the upper hand. But
Yep.
then Joker leaves us with kind of like, no, even this is kind of part of Joker's plan. So I'm not really sure at all. Like Scott Snyder has me guessing what's going to be coming next, which is actually pretty fun.
Yeah, and like what we're basically saying about this Joker thing is that we don't really like the idea, but we can't argue the execution. It's
Right.
just been brilliant, and
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
it's one of those great comics where you just can't wait to see what happens next.
Right. I definitely am with you on that one. So cool. Well, we've got one more in this story arc, so we'll definitely be back to cover that one. It's been enjoyable. I'm probably leading up to number six. I'm going to go back to Endgame Part 1 when there was the Justice League Jokerization, because I am kind of
Hmm.
curious what happened. I kind of forgot how they explained away the fact that the Justice League that got Jokerized, like, forgot where
Yeah,
they
it was
are
like
right
they had
now.
that virus
So,
thing kind of, like we were saying, it was running concurrent to that Justice League virus, so it was kind of
yeah.
confusing, right?
Yeah, so for me, I think it'll be good. Go back to that first one where we got Superman and Green Lantern and all of the Flash coming in
Mm.
Jokerized. I want to remember what happened to them, and
Yeah.
then lead right back up to part six, which I think will be hopefully a pretty exciting finish. Which I'm confident it is because this Snyder Capullo team I think has been pretty strong all along. So
Yeah, I'm totally looking forward to it. It's it keeps me guessing. The only thing I'm not the hugest fan of are those backup stories they always seem to have. They're
yeah,
not nothing really wrong with them, but it just like, compared to the main story, it's just not as good. And I almost wish they could kind of fill those pages with more, extended scenes and things like that from the main story.
right, yeah, I've kind of not been super enthralled by the backup stories, so I've kind of been just kind of hit or miss looking at them. I'll probably
Yeah.
will go ahead and read them like when it's all come together because I know it ties into what's going on. But yeah, I've been focusing more on the main line.
Yeah, looking forward to the next installment for sure.
Great.